Hey everyone, it's Jen with Spirited Saturdays, and this week we are ending our rotation on loss, and we're talking about what we gain from loss. And I know that we typically don't associate losing with gaining, but we think that there's kind of a vacancy. What is there really to gain from that? Or at least it seems that way when we're going through it. But there's actually a lot to gain with perspective. I've been thinking about this a lot lately. Little self-disclosure here. I know I alluded to this in a previous video, but about 3 weeks ago, I personally went through a loss. It was kind of a separation that I went through. So with another person. And it's been so helpful to me to do these videos week to week to kind of put my process out there and what I'm learning as I go. And I just think that it's a great testament to the fact that time and processing can really do profound work. I've been thinking about other kinds of loss and how loss can kind of be seen as transition. You can redirect its meaning. Sometimes it can be permission. It can transform into something else. I know when my grandfather died, that was the first death I ever experienced, and I was 14, and he was such an important person in my life. So I missed him, and I missed his physical presence for a while, and I still do, but I see him now as another kind of entity in my life. Like, I see him as still around, just in a different form. And I dream about him sometimes, and I see him almost as like an angel. I wrote something, so I'm just going to read it to you. What you gain is the work and the byproduct of the work. You wouldn't have done that work if you hadn't had a catalyst for it. What you gain is contained within your process. And there being this felt void or vacancy, you get to choose what fills it. And in the transformation of whatever that person was giving you to whatever you give yourself, that is where I believe growth takes place. You gain insight into your very nature, and you gain coping skills, and you gain bravery and willingness to ask for help. And then you gain or strengthen connections because of that willingness. When I think back, I can recognize that with time, we gain perspective. Loss teaches me to trust. Having lost in the past teaches me to trust in the loss of the present and in the passing of time. I think sometimes time is our greatest teacher because it passes no matter how we deal with it. So we can choose to resist our very nature, or we can allow openness and feeling to ride through us, and then we can reach a marker of time, and when that time comes, we can either have been blocked and cut off, or we can be open. The void we feel after a loss is not the same thing as openness. A sense of void is extremely painful, so we feel pain. And if we can reinterpret it into allowance and openness, then we will create more openness, and that is what we gain. We gain the reinforcement of our allowance. We gain the reward of our digging. We gain the relief that can only be genuinely achieved by staying in the present up until the relief comes. We gain an increased threshold for what we can tolerate. Rather, we gain the learned realization that we can tolerate more than we'd previously believed we could for not having been given the opportunity to realize it. We gain expanded insight into our capacity to feel and to come out not only alive, but better. We gain insight into how to establish boundaries with pain and how to direct pain. We realize that while pain is natural, there is pain that we need to experience, and there is pain that we create, which keeps us stuck. That might be suffering. We learn to set boundaries with ourselves and ask ourselves, am I exposing myself to vulnerability to release this pain, or am I exposing myself to vulnerability to stay in the pain? And we can learn what is right for us, and that can change as we move along. Sometimes it's important to purposefully stay in the pain, but sometimes it creates more hurt to levels that we don't need to be tolerating. We get practice reaching out. These connections and new patterns that we form can really change our brain wiring and stay with us far beyond the recovery from this particular loss. We learn to compartmentalize without dissociating. We learn all sorts of distinctions between healthy and unhealthy, and we can recognize the dangers of an unhealthy path and can learn to use tools to prevent it. So I hope that you can take something from this, and have a good week, and I'll see you next time. Okay, thanks. Bye.